You know what this is? This is a stack of expired listings. Look at this guy, expired. 365 days on the market. 547 days. 519 days. 1,001 days. So your property's been on the market for 6 months, no sale, and it just expired. Your agent is going to tell you the market is bad, buyers aren't serious, and you need to wait. Want to know the real reason it didn't sell? This isn't necessarily about bad intentions. It's about lacking in experience. Your agent doesn't own investment properties. They don't understand investor math. And they price your property based on absolutely nothing. Let me show you exactly what happened and how to avoid it happening again. So let's first define the terms. What is an expired? An expired is exactly what it sounds like. A property was listed with an agent and it didn't sell before the listing expired. This could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. The listing period ends, no buyer, no sale. Now, here's the real question nobody's asking. Why would a property that's listed with a professional real estate agent, someone who's supposed to know the market, not sell? The answer? Let me show you. Common reason a property becoming expired. Number one, inaccurate pricing. 90% of the time, it's this. Number two, poor marketing. It's rare, but it happens. Number three, agent incompetence. More common than you think. Number four, property condition. Now, that could be the case sometimes. Number five, market conditions. Least common excuse. Most commonly used. It's good. Let's focus on number one. That's where the real problem is. And for investment properties, it's even worse. When you're talking about an expired list, there's a critical difference between an owner-occupied property and an investment property. For an owner-occupied property, the owner lives there. They know the neighborhood. They know the neighbors. They know what houses are selling for in their street. The problem, even with all that knowledge, owners don't understand the actual value their property can sell for. Why? Because they're emotional about it. They remember the kitchen that they renovated, the deck that they put in the back, the trees that they planted with their kids. And because they don't fully understand pricing, they rely on their agent, the professional, to help them come up with the right number. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For investment properties, the owner does not live there. They may not even live in the same state. They don't know the neighborhood as well. They definitely don't know what investors are willing to pay for similar properties. There's even a greater responsibility on that agent to accurately price that property. Because if the agent doesn't understand investment property pricing, that property will become an expired listing. Now, here's the part that frustrates me. If you're an agent and you don't own investment properties yourself, and you don't understand the world of real estate investing, how can you possibly come up with the accurate pricing for an investment property listing? You can't. Here's what an agent needs to understand as an agent representing an investor seller. You need to know what criteria investors are looking for. What are they trying to acquire from their property? What rate of return are they expecting? How do you price the property to meet the demand from buyers? If you don't understand how to run a pro forma analysis on that property, how to evaluate the rate of return, the ROI, you are guessing. You're literally guessing at a number that could cost your clients tens of thousands of dollars. Here's a real example. Let's say you're selling an investment property with an income-based valuation of $100,000. In that market, investors are typically looking for a 10% return on investment. That means the property price, the income-based price, is $100,000. The expected ROI is 10%. And the net profit per year that they're looking for is $10,000. So as an agent, you need to price that property so investor buyers can achieve the $10,000 annual profit or 10% return on investment. Now, if you understand the market and you understand investing, you're going to price the property accordingly. But if you don't understand that, you're going to price it based on what? Comps? Comps that aren't actually comparables. Or what the seller wants. Or worse, what sounds good. When average comes to $150,000, what the seller may want is $180,000. But what sounds good to get the seller to list with you? What's that? $210,000? You've just overpriced that property by $60,000 to win the listing. And when investors run their numbers and they see they're only getting 5, 6, instead of the 10 they were looking for, they pass. Next property. And your listing sits. It sits. It sits. 6 months later, it's an expired. Now, maybe you're an agent watching this thinking, hey, I'm just going to Google what a performer is and plug in some numbers. And that's exactly the problem. Say you find a template online. It has fields for 10% maintenance, 10% vacancy, 10% property management, standard percentage for everything. And you think, great, I just plug in these numbers and boom, I have the value. Here's what you're missing. These aren't arbitrary numbers. Those percentages should be based on the specific condition of the property, the neighborhood the property is in, the tenant situation this property has, and the potential value add this property offers. If you're an investor, and if you actually invested before, you understand that those numbers are specific to each property. For example, a property with a brand new roof, new windows, new plumbing, new HVAC, updated kitchens and bath, your maintenance might be 5% instead of 10%. Now, on a property that's in a high demand area with low turnovers, where people are not moving out as much, your vacancy might be 0, not 10. At the same time, a property in a high demand area with high rents, your property management costs might be 5 or 7 and not 10. You see the difference? An agent who invests knows this. They've lived it. They understand the nuances. An agent who's never invested, they're using generic numbers that make the property look less valuable than it actually is. Or worse, they use optimistic numbers that make it look more valuable than it is. The investors run their numbers, realize it doesn't work, they walk away. Look, either way, you got yourself an expired listing. If you're an agent and you're watching this, and you don't understand investment property, I get it. You want to work with investors. They buy and sell frequently. They're good clients. But here's the reality. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your client. You're there to protect them, to put their needs above yours. And if you know you lack the understanding to properly price an investment property, to run accurate performance, to understand what investors are looking for, you should not take that listing. And here's something important. When someone holds themselves as an investor-friendly realtor, but lacks the competence to serve an investor client and doesn't disclose those limitations to bring in qualified support, It may raise fiduciary and ethics issues depending on the facts. And Ohio, licenses owe fiduciary duties to their client. That includes reasonable skill and care, loyalty, and disclosure. And if you are a realtor, if you have the realtor designation, the code of ethics requires you to stay within your field of competence and disclose. Tell them you don't know and get competent assistance. That's Article 11. So no, it's not just inexperience. It becomes misrepresentation plus a failure of reasonable skill and care. Bottom line, if you're not competent in this lane, don't wing it. Bring in help or refer it out so the client is protected. Or direct them to me. If I take that listing, I will split the commission with you. That way, they get the help they need and you still get paid. And you get to sleep better at it. Because when you take that listing anyway, when you guess at pricing, when you use template numbers, when you hope it works out, you're doing your client a disservice. And 6 months later, when the property isn't expired, and they've lost time, opportunity, when they're frustrated and angry, that's on you. Now, if you're a seller watching this, if you're an investor with a property to sell, here's what you need to do before you hire an agent. Ask these questions. Number one, do you personally own investment properties? Not I used to, now my spouse does. You, right now, how many investment properties have you sold in the past 12 months? You want someone who does this regularly, not occasional. Can you run a pro forma on my property right now? Now watch them do it. See if they ask questions about your property specifics, or if they're just plugging in generic numbers. 4, what ROIs are investors typically looking for in this neighborhood? If they don't know the answer, they don't know the market. 5, walk me through how you price your less investment sale. Listen for the specifics, the details, not just vague answers. If they can't answer these questions confidently, with specifics, with examples, with real knowledge and insight, don't hire them. Because an expired listing isn't just frustrating. It costs you time, months of waiting, money, opportunity costs, momentum. The market condition may change. Credibility. Relisting a property looks desperate. And all of that is preventable. An expired listing is a property that an agent was not able to help the seller sell. And in most cases, it's because the agent didn't understand investment property pricing. They didn't run accurate performance. They used generic numbers and they guessed. So if you ask the right questions, if you hire someone who actually invests, who understands the numbers, who knows what investors are looking for, your property doesn't have to become an expired. Now, if you're selling an investment property and you want to make sure you don't end up with an expired listing, type peace of mind in the comments. Let's make sure you're working with the right person, someone who understands investment property pricing and will protect your interests. Hit the like button if this gives you clarity. Subscribe for more investment real estate advice. Thanks for watching.